Hey neighbor, welcome back to the event of the century. My name is John and it's time for a review of the album that is said event. It's the fourth studio album by Adele, the balladeer, the singer-songwriter, the performer known for her towering pipes. This record is called 30 and it's of course the numerical follow-up to 19, 21, and 25. Adele's putting out a new album, you know there's going to be ungodly amounts of buzz surrounding this release because Adele putting out an album, it doesn't happen every year, every other year, or even every 3 or 4. It's been 6 years since 25. Singer-songwriter ballad territory is not always my cup of tea, but I really did enjoy Adele's first 3 albums, with 21 probably being the crown jewel. She has this line between pop and R&B and more soulful affectations that just really hit a sweet spot. Adele, of course, doesn't even need this introduction from me. You more than likely are very familiar with her, at least the singles, because they're unavoidable and for good reason. Most of them are fantastic. When she broke out surrounding the release of 21, her worldwide breakthrough, I did get caught up in, I guess, the hype train for Adele, and in a way, at first I found it off-putting, but then it was hard to not be on board by the time we arrived at 25. And now 6 years later at 30, it feels like everyone is tripping over her every word. And I'm worried that just because this is such a big event, an album release of the century in an era where albums aren't exactly celebrated anymore, are we more excited about the fact that it's out, or are we willing to look at it a little bit under a microscope just to see what's here? I know, Mr. Critic is rolling into town, he's gonna rain on your parade. That's not what we're here to do, but I do want to give a fair assessment and review of the music that I'm hearing. Easy on Me dropped as the lead single, as a piano-led ballad that delivers the goods as a very palatable track with enough emotion to make it work, but it's by no means mind-blowing. But Adele does know her demographic, of course, and this plays it safe to that degree, but again, there's a heartbeat here that made this one grow on me, so I still found myself looking forward and feeling curious about what 30 would offer. That was the only official studio track we got before the album, that and a live performance of I Drink Wine, so expectations were tempered because she was talking about the idea of doing some poppier stuff along with the more soulful and emotive ballads, so what did we get on 30? Unfortunately, 30 is a pretty uneven experience, and it's also Adele's longest album to date by a full 10 minutes, and you really start to feel that drag by the time we hit the interlude. 5 of the songs run for more than 6 minutes, and I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say it, I don't think the majority of those tracks needed to be longer than 6 minutes. They could have been chopped to 4, because the remaining runtime just doesn't add much at all to the experience. Whiplash might not be the right term to use in terms of pacing on the record. In fact, it's hard to point a finger at a singular thing that's like, that's what's wrong with this album. It's more so that you get caught up in the ordinary, in the mundane, to the point where it starts to drag the record down. Adele's every woman appeal is what made her a star. It's where the magic lies. We want her to bankrupt our tears for years, to put her heart on the line, and I just don't necessarily see that cropping up as often on 30, with the exception of tracks like To Be Loved, My Little Love, Love Is a Game. I'm just realizing there's a lot of songs with love in the title. Grating whimsical production on the poppier cuts like Oh My God make it sound like it was a leftover from an Ellie Goulding album, and Cry Your Heart Out is one that beats its pitch-shifted hook down for a bad fit between the verse to chorus transition. Pop has sounded good on Adele in the past, with hits like Set Fire to the Rain, and even the more recent Send My Love to Your New Lover really getting the job done. It's just that this album doesn't do that as often. It can feel clunky, messy, and downright uneven to the point where certain parts of a song like Oh My God will work, namely the actual chorus of the track, which is very sticky, and also that powering bridge. It's just that other parts start to fall into the cracks in between, and that's where we lose a cut like Can I Get It into monotony and boring, tried and true territory. Can I Get It is definitely one of the worst cuts here. It sounds borderline tacky, especially once they work in those car commercial whistles that sound like it's trying to sell me a Nissan. Adele has been through a lot in recent years, and she opens up about her divorce, about becoming a parent, but the effects are felt way more on an indirect confession like the tearjerker My Little Love, which is a great song, more than the muted repetition of, say, the 5-minute Woman Like Me that just starts to run in circles. It feels like we're lost in the wilderness. The interlude is weird. It's sort of a reprise of tracks that came before it, but it also takes time out to reflect on this long-distance romance that just never fully worked out the kinks, much like this song itself, because there's a lot going on here and most of it just does not work for me. It has these piano samples from the late Erroll Garner, who was like a jazz pianist, passed away back in the 1970s, I believe, and it's built off of that, and also some rather unfortunate trap-leading percussion, which makes this song just feel like it doesn't know what it wants to be, and after that point, like I said, that's where the album kinda starts to feel tedious. I genuinely do feel that To Be Loved and Love Is a Game are fantastic closing moments to this album. Maybe they run on just slightly too long, with both being 6.5 minutes, but it's the fact that she actually gets there with her voice, unleashes, and shows what a seasoned veteran artist is capable of that makes those stand out so high, and the other moments that kind of fall down stand out as like, oh, we waited a long time for this to be a little bit more mediocre. Maybe I'm being overly harsh or cynical, but it just doesn't feel like most people are willing to look at Adele with the same critical eye that they do your typical singer-songwriter, balladeer, whatever it may be. This is an album that definitely has its strengths, and again, you can see that she is a pro at what she does, and the vocal moments that really do shine, it showcases some of her best vocals to date, but this is an inconsistent, uneven album that has me thinking that 30 is an album that leaves a lot to be desired, and I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Thanks for watching my review of 30. Please hit that like button and keep in mind that this is all just my opinion. I would love to know what you think in the comments down below. If you want to see my more positive thoughts on her album 25, then you can watch my review of that right here, or tap here for another recent album review. All of my socials, including my Patreon, can be found linked in the description down below. And I'll be back soon with more right here on ARTV.